And we're back once again. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Brian.
And we're the Horror Guys here with episode number 44. Still doing the kind of kiddish
Family-friendly
movies.
Introduction to horror.
Family-friendly,
It's our special project for this Halloween.
Start your kids out gently. But there's a lot here for adults, too.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago we did, what were they? The Witches...
Return to Oz.
Return to Oz, Coraline, and...
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps, right, yes.
Yeah.
Then last week we did 41 short films from the Flint Fright Fest of Fun, Fabulously Furry... Never mind. I don't...
The Flint Fright Film Fest.
4 Fs, yes.
Easy for you to say. And those were not too family oriented. They were more.
No, those were all over the place.
You wouldn't want. Yeah, some were okay, but for kids. But some of those you
not
definitely
kids thing,
would not have wanted to have kids at those.
And we didn't talk about them, but on the horrorguys.com website, we also talked about the way back in the 1930s, Mark of the Vampire.
Mm-hmm.
This one here where Bela Lugosi. That's where we get this Bela Lugosi picture. We also did Spanish Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
They made this exactly the same time they were filming the Bela Lugosi one,
and they reused
with the same
sets.
set.
Yeah,
Bela Lugosi and his group were there in the daytime filming. The Mexican group was there in the evening doing the exact same film in Spanish.
And that was actually really good. It was in Spanish, of course, with subtitles, but
it's like 20 minutes longer.
Really
and they
nice
added a
job
lot to it.
Yeah, they added. There's more Renfield and a lot of nice touches to it.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, the Spanish Dracula, he was really good, and that's worth checking out if you get a chance.
And then we also had on the site the Quatermass, which was the Quatermass miniseries in the late 80s. It was 3 nights, like 2 hours each night, and I think it was probably the best of all of them.
It was more psychological and low on special effects. Yeah, heavy on acting and skill.
Yeah,
without relying on special effects, I guess.
If you've seen any of the 1970 Doctor Who's, it's
good.
along the same quality lines. Not great, but it was very well written.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we watched the BBC's 2005 remake of the Quatermass Experiment, which had Jason Fleming and David Tennant and a bunch of people you'd recognize in it. Mm-hmm. Except the interesting thing about this one is it was live. They filmed the entire thing from start to beginning in an hour and a half, however long the movie was, with no breaks. Nothing was filmed.
And it was funny because they had these little filler scenery things that they would, the screen would go to basically a scenery kind of thing, because the actors were all scrambling to get to the other set.
Yeah, if you're interested in live recordings, it was really very good for what it was.
Yeah.
Special effects are a little bit lacking, but it's hard to do that live.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the last 2 weeks. This week we're going to cover more of the biggest family-friendly horror movies ever made. This time around, we'll look at Mad Monster Party from way back in 1967.
Oh, you're not saying that wrong. It's a question. Mad Monster Party? For some reason, the title is a question.
It is?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. 50-some years old, and I've never noticed that.
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus from 1993, Monster Squad from 87, and Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit from 2005.
Where do we start?
Let's start with the first one. So here we go.
Monster Party?
Directed by Jules Bass, written by Len Korobkin and Harvey Kurtzman, stars Boris Karloff, Alan Swift, Gail Garnett, and who am I missing? Phyllis Diller.
Yes.
1 hour, 34 minutes. Link in the show notes for Amazon.
And this was a stop-action animated.
Well, this is done by Rankin and Bass, the same people who did all the big Christmas specials. Mm-hmm. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, All Christmas That Almost Wasn't. There was one for New Year's, Rudolph Shiny New Year.
Oh, I didn't see
There was an Easter one with Peter Cottontail, I believe.
Yeah, there was.
These were in our day, and back in our day, these were do not miss holiday specials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're still, yeah, I mean, Rudolph is still huge.
Yeah, it's a classic.
And this
Every
is the
year.
same kind of thing. Stop motion, little
puppetry.
Puppety kind of thing.
Stringless puppets. Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did, overall. Yeah. Uh-huh. A lot of humor, a lot of
You're not a big cartoon
catchy
guy,
songs.
but this isn't really a cartoon.
And not really a cartoon. No, it was kind of animated, but yeah.
Kind of animated. It's very
Yeah,
animated.
yeah. I was entertained. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a hoot. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing this a few times when I was little, but it just never took off the same way the other holidays did.
No.
Well, Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, voiced by Boris Karloff, creates a major new formula that proves he now has the capability of destroying any kind of matter. He is so impressed with it that he decides to throw a party to impress his friends.
He's learned how to create life, and now he's learned how to destroy.
This calls for a party.
Yeah.
The invitations go out as the credits roll, and a very old-school James Bond-esque theme song plays.
That was very James
Nothing
Bondy.
says 1960s like a James Bond kind of theme
It
song.
sure was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I looked who sang it. It's nobody from James Bond, but it sure sounded like
it
it.
wasn't. Yeah.
Well, the various monsters get their invitations, and so does Felix Frankenstein, a nerdy little guy who works in a drugstore, but also happens to be Frankenstein's nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Back on the island, the bride sings to the monster, who is now called Fang here for licensing reasons.
Fang. Yeah.
If you ever saw Phyllis Diller's stand-up, she always made fun of her husband Fang. So,
She did?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know which
Okay.
came first.
Oh, all right.
They basically seem like a happy couple now. They've gotten over their differences from the end of The Bride of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. The
As-
castle blowing up around him didn't seem to slow him down too much.
As the song explains, she loves him because you're different.
Yeah, it's a musical. There's a lot of songs.
Not a lot.
Well, okay.
There are
a lot,
songs.
but there's songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fewer than I would have expected.
Hmm.
Frankenstein and his secretary Francesca talk about why it wasn't invited. Felix has said he would be there. Apparently he thinks the island is a tropical resort and he's on a vacation trip. Felix is a plain human, but he's Frankenstein's nephew, and when Frankenstein plans to retire soon, Felix is going to be his heir.
Mm-hmm.
Francesca doesn't like the idea. She seems to have expected to inherit everything. Well, the hunchback gets a job loading cargo on the ship, including the mummy's sarcophagus. Dracula flies up to the ship, and they're all on the way to the Isle of Evil.
And if I could just interject a thing at this point, there's Boris Karloff and Phyllis Diller, and all the other voices, the monsters and the characters are done by, well, not Francesca. She was also a
Boris
actress.
Karloff,
Yeah.
Phyllis Diller, who are name stars.
Yeah. The actress
Gail,
playing-
what's her name, who is Francesca.
and one guy
Alan
doing all the
Swift.
other voices, and it was really impressive.
All
they
of
were
them.
they were distinctly different voices. Alan Swift, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very impressive voice work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You three big stars, and this other guy does everybody
and
else.
the guy, yeah,
And I've never heard of him before. I don't know him.
he did a ton of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're all on the way to the Isle of Evil. By the time Felix shows up, the crew is terrified of all the passengers, including him. Dr. Frankenstein has a whole army of zombie servants that he's constructed, and the leader of the servants is Yetch, who looks like Peter Lorre, but is voiced by Alan Swift.
And who sounds like Peter Lorre
Yeah,
doing
he
the
does.
character. He's very, very much impersonating him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yetch is infatuated with Francesca. They all continue to worry that it will crash the party. The guests arrive. Dinner is eventually ready. Frankenstein shows them his new formula, which can destroy literally anything. The band starts playing, and the bride dances with the mummy until the mummy gets fully unwrapped. There's always somebody at these parties that gets undressed.
Mm-hmm. It's the mummy.
And it doesn't work out well. Francesca and Dracula hatch a plan to get Frankenstein's secret. They sing about how it's their time to shine.
Mm-hmm.
The bride overhears everything. Francesca and the bride have a literal cat fight.
With cat noises. Cat noises in the background.
Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman fight, and before long everyone gets in on the fun. All the monsters eventually turn in for the night, and it's surprising how many of them snore.
Mm-hmm.
Felix arrives the next day. Francesca is taking Felix for a picnic, and she arranges with the Count to set up an ambush. The werewolf, Dracula, and the mummy attack, but they're easily dispatched without Felix even knowing what's going on. Felix expresses doubt to his uncle, but Frankenstein breaks into song to help out. He's got to stay one step ahead of everyone else. Felix wants to think it over while he goes fishing. Francesca gets annoyed and sends a message off the island by carrier bat. All the invitations go out by bat, of course. She gets... Yes.
Look, there goes a message now.
She gets hysterical and has it out with Felix. He slaps her in the face, and she really likes that. Suddenly, they're in love, which leads to another song. All the other...
It escalates quickly.
It does. All the other monsters have a union meeting and decide to kill both Felix and Francesca. Yetch dissents, but the others change his mind. There's a chase around the jungle. Francesca can't keep up, and Felix saves her multiple times. It, otherwise known as King Kong, arrives, and everyone runs away. Kong wrecks the castle. Kong also has a thing for Francesca, and Dr. Frankenstein runs into Felix, and he has a plan to stop Kong. Frankenstein and the zombies attack with their own antique air force. Frankenstein gets captured.
Very reminiscent of the King Kong movie, because Kong is holding...
He's up in the building,
the little woman,
buzzing around.
The little woman in his hand, and the planes are buzzing around him.
Yeah. Frankenstein gets captured, but he pulls out his destruction formula and uses it on Kong and the bad monsters. The island and everything on it is destroyed, leaving only Felix and Francesca in a rowboat. Francesca says she can't marry Felix because she was created by Frankenstein. She has a spring where a heart should be. And Felix has a revelation of his own, and that makes it all okay.
Spoilers. Yeah. Kind of saw that
It's
coming,
52
though.
years old.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
but I was thinking that. I bet he made Francesca. I was thinking that earlier.
There's some reason she was there. I mean, she
Yeah.
came off as a human, but no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kept trying to think, who is she really?
The claymation was really very good. I mean, and things like striking a match, and a claymation flame, and water splashing various ways. And Dracula didn't have a reflection in the mirror. Francesca and he were doing a scene together, and he had no reflection in the mirror.
Oh yeah, they know the details.
It was really well done.
Rankin and Bass, the characters that did all the major Christmas specials, tried their hand at a Halloween show. Unlike the others, this one seems mostly forgotten now. The characters and caricatures are excellent, but the jokes seem awfully dated and corny nowadays. Kids who are not well versed in the really old Universal movies may not even get all the character references. Peter Lorre, who the heck is that?
Yeah, they wouldn't get that joke at all. Yeah.
It may be hard to believe, but the Mummy and the creature from the Black Lagoon really are not as iconic as Santa Claus and Rudolph. The songs are, for the most part, pretty generic and forgettable, but overall, it's a really entertaining, good movie.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
I did like it.
If you haven't seen it, you should.
Yeah.
What else did we see?
Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
For 20-something years, I've heard about Hocus Pocus. I've never actually seen it.
Yeah,
when it came out, I was just at the age where I was too old for kids' movies and didn't want to be seen in a theater watching this sort of thing. Yeah. And I've just never picked it up on TV since.
I never had, but I'm glad we did.
Yeah, 1993, directed by Kenny Ortega. Written by David Kirshner and Mick Garris. Stars Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy. 1 hour, 36 minutes. You did like it, you say?
Yeah, I did. Did you?
Yeah, better than I expected. Actually, all 4 of these movies this week turned out to be better than I expected.
Well,
the kids' movies we watched 2 weeks ago, I gotta say, I was pretty much bored to death through most of them. These were much better. These were all much better.
Yeah, they were.
Even Wallace and Gromit, that I thought was going to be really dumb. I kind of liked it.
Funny. Yeah, it was funny.
So 4 thumbs up from me on all these movies.
Yeah.
Well, this one starts out in 1693, and there are witches in the area. A boy named Binks follows his young sister toward the pink smoke, and he finds a house with 3 witches inside. The young girl is inside as well. She's their prisoner. The 3 Sanderson sisters, all witches, are working on a spell. The boy makes a rescue attempt, but Winnie shoots him with electricity. The witches suck out the girl's life force, and they all 3 get younger.
And that was some good makeup, because they look witchy. They've got some witch touches to their appearance. Bette Midler's got buck teeth, funny looking teeth, and they all look but the aging, and then youthsome somewhat.
They got younger, but they're still ugly.
They still, yeah, they're less ugly. They're less old ugly. Yeah, it was good makeup. Anyway. Yeah.
The witches decide to punish the boy by making him immortal and a cat. Just then, the angry villagers arrive. Turns out that this is Salem, and they hang the 3 witches, but they vow to return.
Took them a while though.
We move to the present day on Halloween. Legend says a black cat still guards the old Sanderson house, now a defunct museum. Max tells Allison that he doesn't particularly care for Halloween. On the way home from school, some bullies steal his shoes. His little sister, Danny, wants him to take her trick-or-treating. While getting their candy, they run into the bullies again. I know the bullies in these kids' movies always get what's coming to them.
They do in this one.
It doesn't work that way much in real life.
Sometimes.
They usually become politicians. Max runs into Allison, and the group decides to go visit the Sanderson house, where the witches supposedly lived. They go inside the huge, old, completely unlocked house.
Yeah, completely unlocked. Just walk in.
Yeah.
Still got electricity, though.
And full of merchandise.
Yeah.
It's a former gift shop and museum that's been closed for a long time, covered in cobwebs.
Stocked, just covered in cobwebs.
But the door's unlocked.
And the door's unlocked, yeah.
They find the old spell book that Winnie Sanderson used. Max suggests lighting the black flame candle that is said to bring back the dead, and a black cat attacks him. But he lights the candle anyway.
Shouldn't have done that.
All the candles in the house spark to life. The 3 witches arrive. There's a brief battle, and the kids all run away. But first, the cat tells Max to grab the spell book before he goes.
The cat can talk.
He can. He talks real good.
Yeah.
The witches try to pursue, and they get into a few comical, time-traveling, fish-out-of-water situations. Winnie explains that they need to make more of the immortality potion before sunrise, or they'll all turn to dust.
So there's a time limit here.
The kids try to burn the book, but it's protected by magic. The witches appear on their brooms. The witches raise the dead to get their book back. The kids hide out in an underground crypt while the witches go out after other children, which are pretty easy to find on Halloween.
Well, it's funny, though, because it's Halloween and they're all,
they don't realize they're children.
And the one's like, I smell children. I don't understand where, but I don't see any.
There's little monsters walking around all over the place.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got lots of little funny bits in it. Yeah.
The witches visit some guy dressed like the devil, and they think he's
it's
the real thing.
devil. Yeah.
Ooh, let's go see him.
Yeah.
And
Master.
And of course, when 3 women come to your door calling you master, you don't send them away.
And he plays along because he thinks they're in costume for Halloween as the 3 witches. And in the meantime, there's 3 little girls that are in costume as the 3 witches that steal the brooms that they've left parked out front.
Well, the kids tell a cop what happened and their parents about real witches, but naturally no one believes them. When called out, Winnie and her sisters break into song. They sing I Put a Spell on You, making it all look like a big act. Of course, she really does put a spell on all of them. Dance till you die, she commands.
And the party commences. Well, resumes, continues.
Doesn't stop.
Yeah.
They wind up at the high school, where the kids trap the witches in a kiln and burn them up. Of course, they don't stay dead.
Fireproof.
The witches run into the bullies from earlier and put them in cages. They don't remember the ingredients for their potion, so they still need to get the book. Allison and Max decide to cure Binks the cat by turning him human again. Opening the book alerts the witches to where they're hiding. The witches then take the book and Danny as well. They need her for the life force. They sing a song that attracts the other children to them as well. Max and Allison drive to the witch's house and rescue Danny and Binks. They all converge on the local cemetery, and there's another battle. Max ends up drinking the potion, and the witches no longer care about Danny. Winnie starts to suck the life out of Max just as the sun comes up, turning her to stone and then exploding.
Spoilers.
Binks dies, releasing his spirit from the curse. Eventually, all the parents leave the dance, exhausted and not understanding what happened to them.
What a party.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the effects all look good. The broom riding looked especially good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really easy to screw that up. How many times have you seen Harry Potter's broom riding didn't look all that good, I didn't think.
This looked better.
It did, yeah. More realistic, less CGI.
Yeah.
The witches ham it up and overact in every scene, which is hilarious. Still, these have to be the most incompetent witches ever.
Mm-hmm.
They had their book, the potion, and dozens of little kids right outside their window, but no, they had to catch Binks for no particular reason.
Because reasons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obsession.
You have everything you want, but let's put it off and go after these other kids.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I was entertained from start to finish, but I don't quite understand the cult-like following the movie has developed over the years. It's good, but it's not that good.
It's a cult-like following is a good way to put it.
Yeah, people just... It's Halloween, you got to see Hocus Pocus again.
Mm.
It's not Rudolph.
Doug Jones plays one of the main zombies in it, and he's always very good. And at one point, his mouth has been sewn shut, and he finally gets free of that, and moths fly out of his mouth. And I read in the trivia that they were real moths.
It wasn't a special effect.
He had moths in his mouth.
Full of moths.
Yeah. Yuck.
Yuck. Okay, well, I said 4 thumbs up for all these movies, but then we saw The Monster Squad from 1987.
This is the weakest thumbs up.
Another one that people swear by every year for Halloween.
This I thought was the weakest of them.
Yeah, I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by Fred Decker, written by Shane Black and Fred Decker, stars Andre Gower, Robbie Kiger, and Stephen Macht. Hour and 19 minutes. And this is one that you read people saying, this was just one of the best movies ever. This shaped my childhood. And
well, maybe if we'd seen it when we were children.
Yeah, I think it's gotten dated.
Mm-hmm. No, I thought the guy playing Dracula did a really fine job in the role. I thought he was especially standout.
He played Zorro in the 80s or early 90s, and he was real good in that.
Oh, that was him?
Yeah. I don't remember him in much else beyond that, but yeah. Oh, he was the goat. He was Beverly Crusher's ghost in that The Doctor Meets the Old Dead Ghost episode of Star Trek Next Generation.
Okay.
Worst episode of Next Generation ever.
Yeah, I think it was.
Almost unanimous on that one.
Uh-huh.
If you can think of a worse episode of Next Generation, you email us. We'll argue. Beverly Crusher falls in love with a dead ghost. Well, this one here, he's Dracula. We start out in Dracula's castle 100 years ago. Exactly 100 years ago. A big ugly bat changes into Dracula, who looks around the crypt menacingly. Van Helsing and the villagers storm the castle, but Dracula is nowhere to be found. A girl is brought in to recite a spell in front of a glowing crystal, but the dead claw through the floor and attack the men. A portal opens, sucking several of the people through straight to hell. Back in the present day, Sean and EJ sit in the principal's office. They were drawing monster pictures in science class. They're big monster movie fans. The principal explains, science is real, monsters are not.
They're both real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The two boys then go outside and bully the fat kid, whose name is Horace, although they all just call him Fat Kid.
All through the movie.
Hey, Fat Kid.
I mean, he's their friend.
Literally, that's what they call him.
He's their friend, and he's hanging out with them. He's part of the gang, and they call him Fat Kid.
Maybe that's better than Horace. They walk past a house where a scary old German guy lives. Horace runs up and wants to let Gary into the monster squad. A pilot hears strange noises coming from the cargo bay of the plane. He goes back in there to check it out and finds Dracula. Dracula dumps a couple of coffins out the door and jumps out of the plane, turning into a bat. In the daytime.
In the daytime. And they don't really explain that or talk about that.
They don't do anything else with him in the daytime, but it's clearly he jumps out of the plane in the daytime.
The daytime, yeah.
Sean's dad, whose name is Dell, is a cop, and they get a guy down at the station who says he's a werewolf. The moon comes up, and the guy freaks out, and the cops shoot him. Across town, Dell responds to a call in the museum, which reports that a mummy has been stolen. 2,000-year-old mummies do not just get up and walk away. And of course, then we cut to the mummy walking down the street. Yeah. The werewolf wakes up and kills the guy who's driving him to the morgue. Just not a good day to be an ambulance driver.
Yeah.
The werewolf and the mummy meet up with Dracula in the woods. The three of them find the Gill Man, and Frankenstein's monster is there as well. Dracula pulls jumper cables out of his cane and hooks them to Frankenstein's neck bolts.
Just happens to have some with him.
Well, he came prepared. I don't think this was an accident.
Yeah, he was ready for it. Yeah.
Lightning hits the cane and recharges the monster.
Mm-hmm.
Very creative.
Yeah, he holds it up like a lightning rod.
Not going to hurt him.
Yeah.
Sean gets a message from Mr. Alucard from school. It's eye rolling time.
Well, but he figures it out. He takes a paper and pencil, and with some hard thinking, he figures out that Alucard is Dracula, spelled backwards.
He actually goes through and unscrambles the words, which makes it a lot harder.
He actually does take a paper and pencil.
It seems Alucard wants the Van Helsing diary that Sean just found in a scary house in the neighborhood. Sean unscrambles the name and sees that it spells Dracula.
Dracula!
Who thought? Who knew? Sean calls his friends from the Monster Club and he explains everything in an annoying, childlike, panicky way that anyone over the age of 20 will find particularly grating. Dracula orders Frankenstein to find the kids, take the diary, and if they don't cooperate, then kill them all. Meanwhile, the kids go see the scary German guy, and they ask him to translate the diary for them. The scary German guy gives them pie and reads about an amulet that is made of concentrated good that wards off evil. Doesn't see much of that in this film. That amulet doesn't do much for them.
No, it doesn't.
It can only be destroyed once every 100 years when it becomes vulnerable. If this happens, the balance between good and evil will shift, and evil will win. He explains how to do the ceremony that opens the portal to hell. The 100-year anniversary is tomorrow night. Sean's little sister introduces them to Frankenstein's monster, which is a good scene. The little girl's sitting there by the lake. She's picking flowers, and Frankenstein's monster walks up. And we've all seen that scene before. It doesn't end the same way, though.
No, it doesn't.
And then they just make friends with Frankenstein, and they teach him words like bogus, and he joins the club. Meanwhile, Dracula and the Wolfman dig up the amulet in the old house where Sean found the Van Helsing book. There's a montage of the kids making silver bullets, stealing pointy sticks, and bows and arrows, and other things kids their age shouldn't be doing. The human half of the werewolf calls Sean's dad and warns him what's coming just before he wolfs up again. The boys enter Dracula's house, and Frankenstein gets buried under rubble. There's an explosion or something. I kind of blinked and missed that. The Wolfman chases the boys towards Dracula's brides. They're surrounded, but they find a secret trap door, wherein they find the amulet.
Just in time.
Dracula attacks, but they smear garlic pizza on his face and run away.
Slows him down.
That's some strong pizza. The old German guy shows up in his car and drives him to church, but then the mummy attacks. The mummy gets unspooled.
It's just one thing after another in this movie.
It seems to be the way to dispatch mummies. Dell, the cop, and his partner drive right through Dracula's car on their way to the house. It's kind of a ghostly car. Dracula goes to Sean's house and blows up their clubhouse with dynamite. He then kills Dell's partner with dynamite.
Yeah, he's a mean, ruthless Dracula.
With dynamite.
Yeah, you don't mess around.
He tells Sean's parents that he intends to kill Sean. The kids stand outside the church and try to read the book with a ritual while Rudy shoots vampire women with arrows. Dell shows up just as Dracula does, and there's more shooting.
Well, it's stakes loaded into a crossbow.
Or wooden arrows. They do the same thing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. They blow up the werewolf with more dynamite, but he starts to reassemble. Rudy shoots the werewolf with a silver bullet. He gets thanked for that.
That does it.
The Gill Man attacks, but Fat Kid shoots him with a shotgun. Dracula approaches and manages to kill every cop in town on the way there. It's like a 20-foot walk from the car to the kids, and all the cops just attack him one by one.
And he's batting them left and right, and yeah.
The little girl, Phoebe, has the amulet, and Dracula wants it. He grabs her, but Frankenstein intervenes and stops him. The German man prompts Phoebe to say the rest of the magic words, and the portal finally opens, pulling in all the monsters.
Bye-bye.
Van Helsing comes out of the portal and pulls in Dracula. Lastly, Frankenstein gets sucked in too, but it's okay because Phoebe gives him a stuffed animal to keep him company. The army then shows up just as everything starts calming down. The end.
Yeah, pretty much. Good special effects and makeup.
Yes.
And Dracula morphing from bat. That was a pretty
couple of times, yeah, that was good.
Good effect, yeah.
These kids are way too hyper, wisecracking, and fast-talking, and they all talk in 80s slang.
I would have enjoyed this more, I think, if I had been 13 in 1987 and saw it then.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. It was still good. I wouldn't say I was not entertained, but
This is
it's the weakest of the four.
This has all the worst of the 1980s kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything that's obnoxious or stupid or dated about the 80s is in this film.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
There's inappropriate rock music, gratuitous Burger King and Pepsi product placement.
Big time product placement.
Lots of Pepsi, lots of Burger King.
Those companies paid. It's pretty clear. It was not an accident.
Naked selfie blackmail threats, and many shots of people smoking in offices.
Yeah, back when they did that.
It's the 80s. Times were different.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more dynamite easily available than I remember being the case in the 80s.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Where are all these people getting all this dynamite?
Yeah. I'd still have trouble getting dynamite.
Even in the 80s when things were, apparently a lot wilder.
Yeah.
The makeup, masks, and monsters all look really good here.
Mm-hmm.
The child actors screaming their lines hysterically killed it for me.
Yeah.
The acting quality is right up there with watching a Disney Channel show with the volume turned up to excruciating. This is another really highly regarded young people's horror movie, and it does have really good creatures and scary situations.
Mm-hmm.
The child actors ruin it for me.
That makes it worth it for the watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The child actors ruin it for the adult me, but I can see where kids would love it.
Yeah. And I liked this Dracula, this guy. He's one of my favorite Draculas. Dare I say it, I like him as Dracula better than I liked Christopher Lee as Dracula. It might be a blasphemy to say that, but I don't know. This guy really grabbed me in the role. Yeah.
We haven't seen enough of Christopher Lee to really get hooked on him yet, but you're right. He's starting to look a little dated.
Mm-hmm.
Bela Lugosi's great.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was good.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Lee is not the best Dracula, although he seems to probably have done it the most times.
Probably.
We got a lot more of him to watch, though, so he may grow on us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of vampires.
Well, the fourth movie we saw this week is, believe it or not, Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, 2005. And I chose this one because I thought it was just going to be a silly thing that, completely different from everything else, just a big joke.
It was funny and good. And
quite good.
Yeah, I liked it.
Director, much better than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Director Steve Box, Nick Park, written by the same guys, stars Peter Sallis, Helena Bonham Carter, and Ralph Fiennes.
Mm-hmm.
And he plays one of the goofiest characters. I cannot picture him doing the voicing for that character.
I can't either. Yeah.
1 hour, 25 minutes. Yeah, he's usually, what is he? M in the James Bond movies.
Mm-hmm. Straight-laced.
And Voldemort in Harry Potter. He's usually a very prim, proper, stuffy.
This is not prim, proper, or stuffy.
No, he's a wiener.
Yeah.
Well, it's a full moon. Someone sets off a sensor in the garden, and the alarm wakes up Wallace and Gromit from sleep, dressing them like it was their own personal bat cave.
The anti-pesto pest control is on the case.
A humane pest control agency. They capture a rabbit and save the lady's prize pumpkin. They put this rabbit in with the other ones. They have caught a lot of rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
The giant vegetable competition is coming up soon, and the whole town is involved.
4 days to the giant vegetable contest.
Gromit himself has a huge watermelon growing out back. Wallace is putting on weight, and he doesn't care for Gromit's idea of a diet, so he makes a brain manipulation machine that will remove the desire for food. What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong?
They get a call from Lady Toddington, who has a rabbit problem. The place is just about overrun with rabbits. Wallace sucks them all up with a complicated vacuum machine. They even suck up Victor Quartermain, Lady Toddington's unwanted suitor. She thanks Wallace for eliminating 2 problems. They're running out of space to store the rabbits, so they get the idea that if they reconnect the brain-altering machine to the giant rabbit sucker, they can mass rehabilitate and release all their hundreds of rabbits, who will no longer want vegetables.
But there's a problem with that, because they got to eat.
They no longer like vegetables.
Are they going to be
meat eaters?
Meat-eating carnivorous bunnies now?
Yeah, well, it doesn't work anyway.
It doesn't work. But
Wallace puts his head in the machine and thinks vegetables are bad. The machine accidentally gets reversed, and Wallace gets a brainload of rabbit brain. Night falls, and everyone in town turns on the rabbit alarms in their garden. One of the rabbits breaks out of his cage and goes on a vegetable killing spree. Every alarm in town starts going off.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, there's a town meeting, and the preacher comes in and describes the creature that attacked his veggies.
Huge.
He calls it a were-rabbit.
Huge, monstrous rabbit.
Quartermain comes in with his shotgun and says he'll hunt the creature down. And he's always carrying his rifle. He's always wanting to shoot something, and everybody says he's like trigger happy and crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That night, Gromit spots the were-rabbit and chases him with their truck. He and the truck get pulled into the rabbit hole, causing lots of mayhem all over town. When he gets home in the morning, he finds rabbit tracks leading to the back door of his house. They find one rabbit that's way too large in their basement.
And they think,
That's
the
him.
were-rabbit.
They build a new, much stronger cage for it. On the other hand, Gromit follows the giant rabbit footprints that begin to look more and more human as they head to Wallace's bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Wallace goes to Lady Tottington's house to tell her about the rabbit they caught, and she shows him her special vegetable garden, her inner sanctum. She shows him her humongous carrot. Want to see my humongous carrot? Quartermain corners Wallace in the woods and threatens him. He wants to fight. Wallace starts shaking. Wallace changes into the were-rabbit. He's huge, he's fluffy, and he's 20 feet tall. Quartermain goes to see the preacher, who has researched were-rabbits in a book about supernatural beings. And there's all kinds of little things. He turns to the page on were-rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
They can only be killed with a 24-carat gold bullet. The next morning, Wallace wakes up with rabbit ears. The big rabbit in the basement is starting to want cheese and talk, just like Wallace does. Wallace starts rebuilding his machine, but he's not as smart as he used to be.
They're starting to cross over and
The rabbit in the
become each
basement,
other.
however, starts putting the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Tottington comes by the house and explains that the vegetable show will be canceled if they can't solve the rabbit problem immediately. Quartermain is waiting outside with his gun and golden bullets. He's just been waiting for the opportunity. He locks up Gromit and takes off after the were-rabbit, who's making a beeline for the vegetable show. There's a chase, and a battle, and another chase, and a mob of villagers with pitchforks and torches. You know it's a horror movie when there's a mob with pitchforks and torches.
The peasants are revolting.
The were-rabbit grabs Lady Tottington and climbs up the building, King Kong style. That's twice this week.
Yeah.
Finally, there's a climax between Wallace Rabbit, Quartermain, and Lady Tottington. You can hop, but you can't hide. Of course, things all work out in the end. Gotcha. So you liked it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Thought it was fun. It was a hoot.
You can't kill people in a kid's movie, so they have a monster that kills vegetables. The animation is mostly stop motion, but there's a fair amount of CGI in this one too. The animation was really high quality, probably better than Coraline that we saw last week, and certainly better than the Mad Monster Party from this episode. I read that this took 5 years to make, and they were averaging 3 seconds of footage each day.
That's a lot of little clay adjustments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The jokes are scattered everywhere, as are visual Easter eggs that would appeal to all ages.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely nothing scary about this movie, and it'd be good for literally any age.
Pretty much.
On the other hand, this was a lot more entertaining for adult me than I expected, and I do recommend it for a laugh, but probably not a scare.
Not a scare.
Yeah.
No.
Not scary. It's still
But
worthwhile. It was
funny.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so 3 thumbs up for sure, and a sort of thumb halfway on Monster Squad.
Monster Squadish. Yeah. Yeah.
You want to see some more movies?
I want some Halloween candy now.
We don't have a snack of the week this week.
No.
We're doing horror diet. We're doing the most horrible thing we can do on a horror podcast. Going snackless and dieting.
Hungry.
Well, that's our show.
Yes, it is.
Thanks for joining us. Stop in during the week at horrorguys.com, where all our reviews are printed and readable, and sometimes there's some special reviews in there. In this past week, actually up until November 1st of this year, where I'm going to have 2 or 3 short films each day. We're getting short film horror overload reviews on the website. All those ones we saw last week.
Mm-hmm.
So stop in on horrorguys.com, check all that out. And I've had enough children's programming for a while.
Yeah, let's have some hardcore stuff, some real scare,
Enough
real gore,
sugary, sweet children's programming.
blood and guts and monsters and murders and mayhem.
Well, like they said in Monster Squad, there must be a good and an evil. There's got to be a balance of the two.
Let's have some evil now.
Let's have some evil, yeah. How about 1946's The She-Wolf of London, along with Shadow of the Cat from 1961. 2 movies I know nothing about. We'll throw in Grotesque from 2009, and that's on our list of like ultra bad movies.
Ultra hardcore.
Ultra hardcore
Not
horror,
bad.
yes.
Not bad.
Not
as in
bad,
not
no.
good, but yeah.
Yeah.
Controversial.
We were going to do a special edition of like the 4 or 8 most raunchy, nasty horror movies we could find, and
We'll just gradually incorporate.
we'll feed them in.
Yeah, we'll gradually get them there.
You deserve the best.
Controversial, or
And lastly, we'll finish up with another coming soon film called Ghost in the Graveyard, which will air on all the big streaming services in early November. So we know you haven't seen that one
not
yet.
released yet. Yeah, looking forward to seeing that early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't forget we've got a Patreon out there, patreon.com/horrorguys, or you could go to buymeacoffee.com/horrorguys and buy us a coffee. Maybe we'll buy some Halloween candy with it. Otherwise, I'm Brian.
I'm Kevin.
We'll see you when? Next week.
Bye-bye.